Okay, so let us begin. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. Now, this is the 14th Town Hall of OnchAIn Asia Hub. Now, OnchAIn Asia Hub is supported by deep funding, and this Town Hall is in collaboration with Hyderabad DAO. Today's session would be handled by Mr. Kaushik. He's a seasoned veteran in this space. He has been in Web3 since 2018. He has also authored a book called Foundations of Blockchain. I will drop a few links about him, about what he's building, so you can check out how cool he is. Before I introduce him, just a second. All right. Kaushik is also a co-founder of Hyderabad DAO. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Frederick. Thank you so much for the introduction. Yeah, like pretty excited to talk about some stuff today. And it's always exciting that people turn up on Friday evening. That's pretty amazing. So this is my third time being in this town hall, being conducted with you guys. So every time we had awesome crowd, fully energetic on Friday evening. That's pretty amazing. So yeah. Yeah, let's get started with unless somebody else has to talk, want to talk about something, or any questions you have regarding the topic, which would probably give me some direction of how the session should be. That would be great. Probably I'll ask some bunch of questions on the familiarity of the topic, just to make sure we can go through this pretty smoothly. Probably I'll start with the question that how many of you heard about x402? Just if anybody hasn't heard of it, just you can drop a comment. That would be great. Or anybody raising hands would also be good, I think. So.
Kaushik, before we go ahead, would like to let you know that a fair number of people are very new to blockchain. Even before this call had begun, a lot of people, some of the people wanted to know what even blockchain was about. I think that would be a good place to start.
Yeah, sure. Probably let's simplify the question. So how many of you have been in the blockchain space, or done something on the blockchain space? That would give me some idea. Okay. Yeah. If somebody is familiar with blockchain, you can just drop the comment. That would also be good. So I would imagine a lot of you guys are still out of college, or at least the majority of you, right? Yeah, so that's what the people have been talking to the past town hall as well. And but I would imagine most of you are developers, right? So if you are not, you can again drop the comment in the comment, so that again we can align some stuff for that. So okay, so let's ask one more question, because since I think last time we had one more town hall, we did talk about the agents at that time also, but it was again we talked about crypto and then how the integration of the agent. The reason we choose this particular topic is because this topic, if you are familiar with the Twitter, crypto Twitter, or generally if you are on Twitter, so you would, few people might have heard this term called x402. Specifically, it's been clubbed with the both agents, AI space, as well as the crypto space. And that's why I thought this is a good way to people who do not understand or just want to know a little bit of what this technology is, we can go through it, maybe in a simplistic way itself, whatever it's possible. And yeah, so I will try to keep this as minimal as possible, because I think a lot of you guys are specifically new to crypto, and then obviously AI is something that everybody is familiar with. At least they have used it in one or the other way, through either some kind of tooling, some kind of a chat interface, editor, or something like that, right? So if you are developers, most of you definitely have used either Copilot, Cursor, or Cloud interface or ChatGPT to work on developmental stuffs and all. And other than that, like most of, even if you're not developer, you definitely have used it. So there are like bunch of, once you are a developer, we try to explore much more than just using these tools, like how we can use it on day-to-day basis to integrate with the technology that we are working on. So like, for example, if you might like the developers, if you are in the AI space or learned about the AI space, there's something called as a application integration as well. So basically, you connect the external world with these kind of like interfaces. So there is some specific technology called MCP, model context protocol, which basically allows you to connect to the live data or any other integrations or apps that are live on the Web 2 or the internet, because most of these like the models, either the ChatGPT or any of the Google Gemini or anything, so they were trained on the data that was already available or probably slightly outdated. But what if it wants to get the live data? So when you're talking to a person in person, they always have a context of the new data, right? So AI models do not have that data. So that is why these model context protocol or this kind of a technology is used to bridge the gap between the live data or the Web 2 internet into these kind of models, so that it gives you the best data or the best interpretation of the questions that you have, right? So similarly, you can think about x402 as kind of a protocol or the kind of a technology that we use to interact with the agents for the payments. Again, I will go a little deep into exactly what it means. But yeah, think about it's a technology similar to this model context protocol. So I hope everybody understood like a bit of what I was talking about. So how many of you again worked on any of these projects involving LLM? Not just use the technology, but have tried out integrating on some kind of projects using any of these models to create your own chat interface, build your own agents. How many of you have done that? You can just again say on the comment section. I'm not going to ask any questions. You guys can just like if you're all just experimented with. Okay. Yeah, this is good. Like this is exactly what I want to know, right? Like how many of you are familiar? Cool. That's good. Okay. Okay. So let's go to the basics then. So one of the things with the x402, right? So we don't even have to know about crypto or AI, by the way. Like it's okay, definitely a little bit of the crypto, but we can actually go to very basic things. Okay, let's go back to the HTTP. So I'm pretty sure everyone who is in the space, either development or even the users, they are very familiar with using the websites, right? So, or when you're using a website, you would always have a backend data, which is almost most of the time consumed with the help of APIs. It will be like, there are whole bunch of technology that is used to create these APIs. So one of the most common protocol that is used to deliver this data to front end is called REST APIs endpoints. So these REST API endpoints again are developed on backend using different technologies. Either it could be Node.js in JavaScript or TypeScript or PHP, .NET, a whole bunch of different languages are there. And currently, if you're familiar with the web applications, most of the web application front end are written on HTML, JavaScript, either on or some of the frameworks like React and Next. And then they communicate with the backend. Most of them are definitely either Python or Node.js, right? So when you write it in Node.js, it basically have a REST endpoint. So the front end will communicate to this backend to get some data. So either let's say if you're using any of the search engines or social media or chat applications, you write something on the front end, it will communicate the backend using the internet protocol like HTTP, but it will hit the server, web servers, and the web servers will again have databases, all those sort of things. It could have caching layer, or a whole bunch of different file system, file servers, and all those things. But at the end, it will give you whatever data you want. If it's a chat, it will just give you messages to and fro with some kind of a communication with like instant output. But if it is like intensive data, like you will make a query, it will process that query, it will give you the data back, right? So all this is pretty common. Like we know how it works. So front end hits the from the browser, it's the backend will process it and give the data back. So the extension of it is let's say this is pretty convenient for the consumers, but let's say somebody else who wants to integrate with your backend services, they often use something called as a API keys, right? Because as a provider, for example, let's say you are using a Facebook, or let's say Twitter. So Twitter, you have a front end, you have a backend, and the backend is basically an API which stores the data, fetches the data, all the profile information, tweets. If you want to automate some of stuff, you can call the backend to do the tweet and everything. But these APIs, if a developer wants to integrate this Twitter into their platform, not through the Twitter interface, but through their platform, they definitely need some access to the APIs of which the Twitter provides. So currently in the Web2 world, how it happens is that you go to their platform, either Twitter developer or Facebook developer platform, you get their API keys, you register with your existing Twitter account, and then probably there is like free access to free limited access to do some tweet calls, some write, some messages and everything. But after that, you do have to pay. So you'll have to put your credit card information, debit card information, so that you go beyond a certain threshold of doing tweets through these API endpoints. You'd often have to pay from your credit cards, right? So this is very common. So even if you think about, let's think about something very basic for the consumer, such as the streaming. So if you're using Hotstar, Netflix, Geo, and all these tools, all these services, again, you pay for certain subscription. Obviously, there are free tools, free subscription available. But it's something like Netflix, it doesn't even have a free subscription. So you do have to get a subscription and then explore all the movies and everything. So similarly, if a service wants to integrate Netflix or all the streaming services, they have to go through the same process of getting a API endpoint, developer subscription, and then integrating with you. So what if, and obviously there are other ways also to integrate, but most common is that you pay for a subscription, and same thing goes for the developers also, you pay for the developer subscription. But there are still certain use cases, certain, most of the time we do want to do pay-per-view. So let's say you want to watch a single movie or watch a single piece of video which is behind the paywall. What you do is that you don't want to take an entire subscription. Most of the time you do some jugaad and get friends password and username, right? But what if you want to do one time? So there are some services like Amazon and YouTube, they have like a per movie rent things, like 48 hours you can rent it out and then you can watch that, or per view you can get the content and all. So most of the time it happens that people take a subscription and they don't want to pay for the entire thing, they want to do it one way. So this is actually very useful for the individuals, but it is not widespread, right? Like, let's say some developers want to integrate with the Twitter right now, as I told, it's not available right now. Either you take it free initially and then you take subscription. So there is something called as a micropayments. So micropayments are nothing but you do not pay for the entire subscription, but you pay for each and every services. So this is not, that is something that is very popular in the existing Web2 or the services, but this is it's going to be very useful if a person is consuming a whole lot of different services and a whole lot of different content, and they want to get the service of one endpoint at one time and then move on to the different services and get those services and all. So for this, micropayments are very useful, because you make that payment only once for the service and then you move on to the other services, but these are not accessible. So what it's also useful is, which I told right now, is something like think about it like agent, or let's say think about an AI service. I just mentioned that these LLMs are there, right? When you talk to ChatGPT doesn't have real world data. So it is going to fetch it from some subscription services like news and get all you the data. So what if you, and also one of the reasons Perplexity or let's say ChatGPT charges a lot more then it's pretty expensive compared to a lot of other services, because they are trying to integrate with all these services, data and everything, which is pretty expensive. So what if your request based on that particular service, it can reach out to that particular endpoint or a live Web2 data, and then make only a very small payment, let's say 1 rupee of content you require from some news services or something. So you call ChatGPT will make the payment and you get the data back. So, and you don't have to take that $20 subscription, right? So this is what we call it as a micropayments. So micropayments are not that popular in humans because humans tend to use a lot more services. Than if you're watching Netflix, you get addicted and you watch it a lot more. And that model works out great. But for agents or these AI, it is not that great because they do not use the same services again and again most of the time. They want to test it out whether the data is good, and then if not, they will move on to the different services. And that is why micropayments are very popular. So micropayments are talk of the town in the agent space or the AI space, right? So that is exactly where this x402 comes. So x402 is sort of a way for this AI or the agent world to make payments to other services as a micropayment. Like it's like a one-time payment to get access to some data or get access to some services, API endpoints, HTTP endpoints, some services. That's all it is. So instead of getting some services for free, some endpoint, what they do is that they make a one-time endpoint, one-time payment endpoint. So you access that that endpoint after making a payment. So that's what x402 is. So it's just like a micropayment. You, instead of making it free or giving it for subscription with API keys, you make the user or the agent pay for each calls. That's it, right? So yeah, so that is exactly why this is a talk of the town, because one of the, as again I was telling, agents use case, like the data problem is sort of solved or the application problem is solved. So now agents can make payment on user's behalf, or the user can make payment to the other and to give the data to the agent. So it can become much more cleverer, and it can become like a real powerful entity. So it can make decisions on its own to do whatever it wants. And this is why it's becoming popular. So yeah, so just to give you a little more context of why crypto is a very popular tool for x402 is because most of the time agents or the AI has to have an identity to get the bank accounts, right? So for human, it's fine. Okay, we have a bank account, we prove our identity, geography, and we prove whatever our worth and everything. We get a bank account, we get the credit card and everything. So that is why, okay, we can always have this kind of like a tool like banking services and pay for the subscription and all. But if it's an autonomous agent which is living, let's think about like a humanoid or a robot or anything, they will not have an identity. At least for now, they don't have an identity, and they will never get a credit card or bank account. They can't spend. So it has to use humans account. So what if you want to create a fully autonomous agent, which actually serves the human or serves multiple human? So you need a payment mechanism which is very neutral, which is not geography based, which is not, it can't be censored by entities and everything, so that it always performs. And it has to be very global. So it's not just between, in the single country it will work. I want to make a payment through some services in USA, some services in Europe. So it has to be working everywhere. And that is the reason crypto is becoming popular in this agent-to-agent payment, this micropayment I was talking about, because that's the best payment tool for agents. So the reason we call it crypto internet money is because, again, there is no barrier. It can communicate over from one region to the other region across world with the speed of, there is no like a space barrier, there is no time barrier. It's pretty fast and like a geography not restricted. So that is why this crypto has been used as an internet money. So it's known as an internet money because its number one use case is definitely payments. And that's why it perfectly fits as a payment protocol for the agents. And yeah, so that's the reason, right? So this is a broad overview of why crypto and micropayments with the agents is a really big good combo. And this is something that is not like groundbreaking as a implementation, but it's a groundbreaking as a ideology. So people haven't thought about combining this because we did not have the rise of agents like we do right now. because if you are familiar with development right now, I'm pretty sure most of you are coding your 90% or 80% of your work with Cursor or Copilot or Claude or ChatGPT, whatever. And we write 90% of our articles or whatever tweets or any kind of thoughts using ChatGPT, right? So we are seeing this growth of agents a lot more, and they are becoming expensive as well. Like you do have to pay for their charges, and they are getting connected with external worlds with the MCP that I was talking about. So if you look into ChatGPT, I can, am I allowed to share screen? I can just quickly share screen as well.
Yep. Just a second. Are you not able to share your screen?
Because yeah, I don't see that option. Yeah.
Okay.
I can refresh my screen and check once. Yeah, now I can see it.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, so I'll just show if you're not familiar with. So these are the options that we have very recently, right? Like ChatGPT integrated with like bunch of different tools that you can communicate. So let's say you want to read emails from your own connected account, GitHub, and you want ChatGPT to access your calendar, Drive, Slack, all those things. So they are becoming much more exposed to the apps that we interact day-to-day basis, and they are not like everything is not free, right? Like you do have to pay for other services and everything. So when you give this agent access to apps, so they will become much more expensive as well. So let's say that it wants to connect to some of the apps, and you have to make payment to do tasks on top of it. So you do need a payment protocol. And also one other thing I wanted to add was that, yeah, so these agents are getting popular now. So we previously used to think about it just like as our assistant. Now it's not going to be just an assistant. It can actually do end-to-end workflows with the access of these apps that we have. And that is why we are thinking about this payment protocol as well. We have never thought about this payment protocol because we were like, okay, you can just do like one serial task and you get the data back, and it's like very simplistic. But now we might be going through a path. So let's say you give a very complex project task, and our Cursor or all these tools are capable to do end-to-end as well nowadays, because it can do recursive tasks on top of it. It can debug if you have an issue that was not possible probably like 5-6 months ago. So same thing with Copilot as well. So you trust it to give it like 10 minutes time as well, let it do its work, and then you will figure it out, right? So it's becoming complex. These agents are actually becoming clever to do like recursive tasks, and that is why they are not going to be cheap. Like if you create your own agents and it uses like a bunch of different apps and all, you would want people to pay for it. So it's like training a new guide for you and then somebody paying for your guide, right? Your projects, eventually your really cool projects would become an agent and people would pay for your agents. And this is the right direction for people to think about like payment protocol. Again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, this is something called the 402. So by the way, x402 came from the Web 2, at least the naming convention came from the Web 2 world itself. It's called as a error, HTTP error 402. So you have heard about 401, auth error, 403, 404 not found error, and all those things, right? So these are error codes that is given to HTTP. So basically, this particular error code was also implemented in HTTP as a checkout service. So let's say you want to hit an endpoint. Again, whatever I was explaining, it needs a payment to access it. It used to throw 402 error. So, but the reason is that there was so much of clutter or incompatibility among the payment providers, all these backend service providers and everything. It never became that popular implementation. So that's one of the reasons it was never that popular. But the reason it came back is because agents are not human. So they don't understand a different way, at least as of now. They can't deal with like hundreds of standards unless you train them. So you need a standardized way for them to communicate. And that's why these apps, if you see, right? So let's say I want to add a new app for me to communicate. So this is a service which I was talking about. It's called MCP. This is a model context protocol. It currently understands only MCP, this particular specification of the protocol. So ChatGPT, Cursor, Claude, all these tools, all these services, they understand only this particular protocol. So they do need a particular protocol for interact with the other services, external services or other agents, because they are not as clever as humans, right? So once they become, yeah, obviously they can actually become at some point, but it's easier for them if they communicate in a proper protocol. And that is exactly the reason this is becoming popular in the agentic ecosystem than the user ecosystem. So when the user wanted to interact with API services, they would use their own integrations, API keys and all, like get the data however possible. But now since the agents want to pay for their services, we want a standardized way. So, and that's exactly the reason 402 is becoming popular. And it is, again, it has been popular in the agent-to-agent ecosystem also by Google. Like Google already have some basic implementation for the Web2 services, not just crypto services. And X402 is an extension of 402 by agent-to-agent by Google and all for the crypto. So basically, currently X402 is used only for crypto, but it's an extension of whatever the Google implementation. Here, we have a slightly different architecture, how the technology works. How do you set up an X402 payment in the web services? How the client interacts with these endpoints to pay for it, which tokens are accepted, which chains are accepted. All these standards will be specified in that implementation. And you, once this is set up, it's pretty easy to use. It's just like there is a library SDK or library in the backend, a library in the front end, and you have to configure a few things. That's it. Like it's pretty easy. Like it's one of the easiest, once you understand actual use case, one of the easiest way to integrate this setup to receive the payment, to make the payment as well. So that's the basic highlight of like, why do we need this protocol? Just to pay for services from agent to agent, human to agent and everything. And it's popular in crypto because agent, it's a perfect way to do the payment for the agents because they don't have identity to get the bank account. So that is why it's a great intersection of crypto and the payments and then the agents here. So yeah, that's some basic introduction. I can take some questions if it's like too much, or if you have any doubts regarding this, and then maybe we can continue.
So from what I understand, X402 helps these agents with making payments to avail a service or anything beyond a paywall, right?
Exactly. So this is basically kind of like a specification of the protocol on how to set up this paywall and how to pay for this paywall. Yeah. So this is like a standardized ways. And that's why I told there are implementation already in set place, which people can communicate. And one of the cool things is that once you have this protocol set up, right? For example, let's say you have this browser, all the browsers like Mozilla, Chrome, Safari, they work on one protocol, which is the HTTP. So all the websites that are designed on the HTTP will work across all the browsers, right? Because we are following that particular protocol, HTTP protocol. The same thing goes for the payments as well. If I am designing as a service provider, one payment, I have some services to give, and I use this protocol to make tell that, okay, this is a paywall, and I want you to make a payment. So it will work across all the different clients. So same thing, like in India, we have standards, right? Like UPI is a standard. So previously we had like banking standards, which was not that compatible with each other to make a payment. There were like to and fro. But now, since because of the UPI, every bank accepts the UPI as an integration.
Right.
You can register your phone number and bank account, and any app you can use to make the payment. So that is why, unlike some of the checkout services that we have in Web2, which are not that user-friendly, they are not user-friendly for developers to integrate it. So you'll have to use one services, other service for other payment and everything. So it was not that great until UPI came in, where every interaction was same. So that is the reason we are making the standardization in agents, so that somebody designs these services, every agent can communicate in the same way. So they don't have to implement one, a payment, making a payment in one way, making a payment for another service another way. It's just a standard.
Okay. One question I had was, is X402 only for agents, or can it be used for used in places where real people also have to make payments someday?
Yeah, so this currently, if you see, this experiment in crypto started as a user making payment for the web services, like a simple application. So most of the implementation that we have right now, it's not actually agent. We have not picked up a stage where agents are making payment and getting the actual, useful data. It's just an experiment. Right now, it's like people are just like playing around with, because at the end, you need some services which the agent how to make payment to get the data. Like it has to be like a really resourceful data. So we may not be at a stage where this is happening. We do have like a lot of experimental. We already have like close to 3 or 4 million of data. I can quickly share how the stats looks like.
Right.
But yeah, so it is currently happening. To answer your question, it's already being used for the user to merchant, and then agent to agent is kind of like starting up right now.
Okay. So you're saying there's very fast adoption across most places, is what you're saying, right? For X402.
Yeah, so it's picking. I think this particular paper was, if you want to read about it, I think you can go to this x402.org. That's best way for you to start. There you will find this paper as well, one pager. So you can go. Coinbase was the author of it. Most of the people from Coinbase. So it has a brief couple of line pager, but you can also read the white paper of it. Again, I will give some of the technical architecture, how things are in place, so that you get an idea when you read this or try to implement this. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so this is taking as you asked. So this was, I think, around May, if I'm not wrong. It was published along with Google. I think, yeah, May 6th was published. But it immediately did not have a lot of implementation. So Google, after that, kind of created their own A2A payment protocol. So they mentioned that for crypto, we are going to use the X402. And that's where it became very popular during September. So September, October, November is the only implementation that we have seen, a lot of implementation. As you can see, if these kind of volume you are seeing, this has been just like last. So we can actually see all-time data. Yeah. Again, this is not like cumulated, but I think it will have like most of the data at least.
Right.
I think we hit like 4 million or something in volume in payments.
Interesting. I'm seeing X402 everywhere. Almost every hackathon, almost every company is interested in implementing X402.
Yeah. I feel like this implementation at the end would be as powerful as how powerful the agents are. So we still need, as far as I understand, it's still in the experimentation state, but we need more of these people building really useful resources, which the agents can do the micropayment. For example, most of these, let's say, services are very cheap or free. Let's say it's a $5 per year or $5 per month. People wouldn't be making like $1 per request. So it has to be like very tiny amount, 0.001 USD per access for these payments. So there has to be like a right economy model for people or the agent to consume these resources. And the resource has to be like really useful for the agents or the users. So yeah, I think we need more brainstorming on that area as well. How do these agents become clever and the resource become like pretty useful? We do have like again, this implementation is also really early. Again, I will probably at the end, I will talk some of the problem that we have with existing implementation, and there would be more better implementation coming up. But yeah, I think we need like growth across all the stages, like agents becoming more intelligent, data becoming more popular, and then yeah, definitely the implementation itself becoming better.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Please feel free to drop it in the chat. I understand most of you are very new to this. However, I'm having a great time learning about it, and I hope you're having a great time as well. Okay.
Hi, Frederick. Is it possible to speak up?
Yep.
Hi. So, Frederick, could we also include in the angle of artificial general intelligence into this, and maybe have more like a productive discussion about it, if that's possible, or at least the viewpoint of how once AGI gets mixed into this ecosystem, how it could look like, how it could the efficiency of it, or the imagination of it, which lays the foundation for everything anyways.
Right.
Can you tell a little bit more about it? Like maybe I do not have like a lot of information about, so that I can figure it out.
You're a techie, right, Mr. Kaushik? So I'm sure that you know what AGI is. I'm guessing at the very least.
Yeah, I'm not like super familiar with that, but yeah, at a very high level.
For more context, this discussion is more on X402 from an AI agent standpoint. Now, I understand AGI is very far ahead. It's yet to come. For an AGI context, it won't be any different than a real person making the actions, except that AI would be much more capable, right? So I would like to understand.
And I have a team of 12 people already, and I have a blueprint. I have things, and AGI, as Mr. Raj wanted to, get an insight. I'm sure he has his own opinion, but AGI is basically going to be an AI entity which qualifies enough as an independent cognitive thinker, or mimicking the cognitive ability of a human, at least up to the level of a human being. And that is what AGI will be. Now, to what extent will the AGI inventions would look like by 2030 is again depends upon the kind of startup players that are going to be the doers in this, the executives and the executors of this. So and the world is all listening because it doesn't have a theory or an ecosystem already to make a judgment on, so everybody is entitled to their own definition. But yes, if you guys would like to have a word with me on this, I would be delighted, because I'm looking for knowledge sharing and connections across the hidden investor ecosystem, wherein people like you could once you believe in the vision and understanding, and obviously the team profile, they could you guys could at the very least help me with connections.
Yeah,
would love to, sir. Please share your details in the chat. We will check it out. As for this session, this would be beyond the context of the session. I would say this is mostly for people who are looking to implement X402 in the products they are building. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat. And of course, please do share your details as well. Would love to know more about what you're building. Thank you.
Yeah, so I can add a little bit on that, like just where I would say it would fit in. So basically, some of these agents, or which could be like fully autonomous or think like humans, and eventually replace it, would the current internet world, we have to think about it. For example, if you see this the agents that are built by different ecosystem. For example, if you look into Perplexity, right? So they had this scraping model. So you basically have an agent which would, okay, let's say you want to book a ticket for something, and you tell that, okay, book the cheapest flight on this date, find me the best timing and everything. It would have some data on analyzing what would the best time and all, but it doesn't have the live data, right? So the current internet is actually built for the humans, so not for the machines to consume. So if you're thinking about AGI would consume the current existing internet as the human consume, it would take a lot of time. So just to scrape through all the internet, and again, it's not, the current internet is again designed in such a way that it would block all the bots scraping the data or having access to the data, and there are specific way it would detect it, right? So if you think about it, humanoid interacting with the internet like a current human, that's not going to be a best way for us to have a companion who would do work for us. The reason we are exploring the technology like x402 or these agents communicating with the technology like MCP is to make the existing internet much more accessible for the agents to consume. And that is exactly why where it would fit in. So for example, if let's say the humanoid demo that we saw a couple of weeks there at Neo, where it would actually do the chores for you on behalf of the in the household and all. It is basically a kind of like a replacement human, exactly what it does, rather than it's just a bot which it can do certain tasks they're trying to replace. So it would interact with the world exactly like human. But I think the way we see, obviously agents would fit in with the agents as well. Most of the agents, at least as of now, we want it to be faster and more efficient than human, than becoming the human itself. Definitely thinking definitely like humans, but the way it interacts with the internet is not like, shouldn't be like human, because we are slow. So that's exactly why we are rethinking this internet technologies, specifically payment, to become faster and more accessible to these agents. So we can have a thinking like human, but they interact much better than human. So that's exactly where we fit in this thing. But I would imagine it would definitely fit in at some point.
Yeah, I wouldn't really like to, argue on that, because you are giving a very real-time insight, and I'm glad for that. AGI, there are going to be various ways, and there are few companies which are doing it. But the thing is that they already have their own big ships, right? So, and that is not built on AI foundations. That is built on search foundations or social media foundations, right? So the creativity of inventing AGI will be different per founder. And I have my own thinking that it has to be done through thought chain tracking. Otherwise, there will be no data around it to actually make it that cognitive. Yeah, I mean, the ability of AGI could be that it goes promptless. I mean, it will not need prompts. Because to show cognitive capabilities, it is imperative that we track the thought chain, and and that could obviously change every industry. It could change everything. Otherwise, how will the AI entity become that cognitive? So and that will obviously make agents far more competent in terms of thinking, self-reasoning, and delivering the final deliverable that there has to be as per the idea fulfillment scope. So I look forward to meeting with people who are interested in knowing more about what my AGI blueprint is. And I already have a team, and I'll share all of that. And let's hope to not just keep the power centered across the West only, because the geopolitical shift in the society on a global level is moving towards the Eastern lobby. So obviously the desire for having an AI stack in the global South, as well as towards the eastern front of the globe, is also a lot. And now is the time for India to step in as well. Okay.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think continue with some of the discussion around exposure too. So since we were talking about some of the specification, right? Like we have like, there are, again, I think the last thing I talked about was the white paper part. So let me go through how would the architecture look like in terms of the payment, right? So if you are familiar with at least few of you on the crypto end, most of the payments that we do for the commerce, either buying, selling some goods and everything, revolves around stable coins, because we do not want a lot of fluctuation on the tokens or the prices around it, to make sure once you immediately sell after an hour, you shouldn't be all lost. So we still deal with the denomination of the real world currency, which is US dollar or euro, or hopefully we'll have a stable fund for INR as well. But the popular ones are US dollar right now. So most of these payments are happening on some of the tokens called USDC, by Circle, USDT, by Tether, and there are like a bunch of few other, but these are very popular ones. So this particular standard, or the implementation at least, was created centered around the stablecoin payment, but this is extendable to any token. So you can make the payment from the consumers to the server, and then all the settlement, everything would happen on the blockchain. But yeah, so just the beginning, I think they would want it to be a token centric, and it was designed around USDC, but it is again expandable. So let me just show you, I think this particular, I'll just share this as well. You kind of want to see, but yeah, so I'll show you this, how it's going to work. So since I already talked about the client, and there is server, and there is a blockchain. So blockchain is sort of like a settlement layer. So in crypto, it's kind of like a non-centralized or trustless entity. So there is no settlement layer which is a centralized. We do all the transaction which should be broadcasted, and we don't have to trust anybody to get the confirmation, but rather we trust on the distributed ecosystem, which we call as a blockchain. So we don't have a database, we have a blockchain where the settlement would happen. But yeah, as a user, as a consumer of this technology, we don't have to bother, as long as we are very much trusting on this the ecosystem. For example, let's say the only thing that we need to know is the Ethereum ecosystem to use any of the tokens that are there. So Ethereum itself is has a huge close to I believe like 300 to 400 billion dollar worth of assets locked in, and they are pretty much yeah, you could, I don't want to be wrong, I'll just open the coin group. Price are fluctuating. Yeah, so we have like $400 billion worth of asset, and your Bitcoin is the number one with the trillion, more than 2 trillion access, right? So we trust on the liquidity lock there to actually trust on the technology, and definitely we don't have to go deep into the technology if you don't want to, as a consumer, as a server, to do the transactions on crypto, just like we trust on the banking entity, right? So obviously trust layer is remote because a lot of decentralized ecosystem, and anybody can, it's completely transparent ecosystem and everything. Unlike bank, where we want to trust on a particular bank, we have to purely trust on some of the user review and some of the brand name of the banks. But here it's like more decentralized. But as a user, as a server, you want to integrate, we just have to trust, have a open integration with blockchain. So let's say we have a client who wants to make a payment, server who wants to pay all their services. So currently you will have a browser here, we will have endpoints created using REST APIs, and we have one more layer called as a facilitator, which is basically a verifier of your the transaction that is going through. So how it happens is that, let's say the client, or let's say an agent, wants an API endpoint, it will make a call to the server, and typically either server would reply with the data, right? Like if it wants an authorization, it would ask username, password. But if it is an open endpoint, it would just ask you, give you the data back. But in this particular protocol, it would send you an error message called payment required for that particular endpoint. So it's kind of like a to and fro happens, like 2 calls would happen. It will give you the error message, and immediately in that error message, all these details would be specified. This is one of the part of the specification that it will have which recipient that token has to be transferred, how much token has to be transferred. If it's like $2, what token is it, like USDC, USDT, as I mentioned, what blockchain. So, and there are like few other information, but these are the most important information. And this is sent in a structured way, standardized way. Again, I will show how the error message would look like. This is a standardized error message that you would get. And then the client gets to know that, okay, I need to create a payment. Now the client will have a wallet here. So they will have a wallet address. They will have a wallet, which is, if you're familiar with crypto, you have MetaMask, you have like different EOAs like Rabbi, MetaMask and everything. You have different smart accounts like Safe. We ourselves have a smart account called Prove It built on top of Safe. You could use any of these services and then create a payment. So essentially how it works is that you don't actually make a payment and give it to the blockchain where you make a transaction. It is called as executing a transaction, but rather you sign the data. Like you basically say that you want to make a payment to this particular service with this address, this token. You just sign that particular transaction. It has not gone through the blockchain. That means it is not executed. And you put that with this particular x402 payment header. So in HTTP, we have a header, right? You make that as a part of that payment as an HTTP call, then you send it to the server. The server identifies that, okay, somebody has made, they have made a payment for this particular endpoint. And let me verify that whether it's proper. So now it sends to there is one more entity called as a server. Don't have to implement any of this logic. So they just have to implement this library to make, just to validate that. So it's just going to be like one line of code. Again, I'll show you. Then this particular server will call this endpoint called verifier. This is an independent entity that is run by most of them. We have hosted our own Coinbase, and like there are like bunch of people have hosted. You can host your own facilitator as well. Again, it's a standardized implementation. What it does is that it just verifies whether the signature is right, and then it will send to the servers that the verification is proper. Then after that, server will again say that again now settle the transaction. The facilitator will now execute that particular transaction into the blockchain because all the data is all right. It can actually broadcast it. What it does is that it just sends it to the blockchain using some node call or PC call. It gets executed. It calls that particular token standard like USDC, sends that USDC or USDT sends that signature. It gets confirmed and it will give the data, say that okay, it's settled. Now after that, you get you along with the data, you send X payment response back. So, yeah, so it says said that the transaction is confirmed. Here is your data, and all your data will be gone to the client. So this is very simple flow. Server gives the error, client signs the signature for the token to transfer, and then the server facilitator verifies it, settles it, and then gives the data back. That's it. It's a very simple thing. It's just that the only thing server does and the client does is follow a specific standard, standardized implementation, or it can write its own implementation, but it has to follow the message protocol, how the HTTP world is interacting with a certain set of standards. So this or web servers, how it's interacting, this particular payment interaction will happen with that particular standard. That's it. So now you replace that client with agent and server with also with the agent if you want to do agent, or client can be agent, and the server can be just a server. Right? Any doubt in this? So what I'll do is that I'll just quickly show if you have, so there is an endpoint I'm going to share. So we have built some small playground for people to test it out. I'll just share this in the chat. And I'll show it to you. So whatever I've shared right now, you can just try it yourself if you have a wallet account. And also USDC. If you do not have a USDC and you have wallet address, just go to this faucet.circle and then get some. Right? So currently I'm going to connect my own crypto wallet. I'm using Rabbi. Okay, I'll not use the account. I'll just use social login. You can use social login as well. So there's some issue when I'm sharing it had happened before. I'll just use my social login. So yeah, again, if you don't have an account also, you can just use social login. And the only thing is that you have to deposit funds to it. So I would show you how to do that. So yeah, I would not be able to copy it. Anyway, I'll show you the demo. So I already have some funds here. And if you do not have, you can actually go to USDC and then select base Sepolia. This works on Sepolia right now. Yeah, select here and then paste your wallet address if you are connected with MetaMask or Rabbi or whatever. Then click on here. And here I'm showing you a few of these endpoints. So these are basically HTTP endpoints, web services. I'll show you a very simple one which doesn't have a require payment, right? So I'll just open the network tab as well to show how the response looks like. So I'm just gonna click on it here. It just fetches some random code for me. So it says the only way to do work, great work, is to love what you do, Steve Jobs. Okay, it's just some random code. And if you can see this response, right, it's actually giving me a proper response. No error, nothing. It gave me a response and I displayed it. So now let's select a payment endpoint. So there is a payment endpoint called generate password. So here I'll say that I need 20 length password, and these are some, I think by default it says true. So I'll just call this now. So this is a paid endpoint. So now it is making call. So as you can see, there is an error message, and then it actually made a payment. So I'll show you the error message, what it looks like. So this is the error I was talking about. If you can see this header message here, central, this is C, right? This is a HTTP error that we use, 402 payment required. This is a standardized HTTP endpoint. So that's why x402 an extension of HTTP error message. So we throw error message of 402 payment required. And in the response, you will see this data, which is the how the payment should look like. You add more details on the how the payment, what kind of payment you want. So as you can see, I told this is a USDC contract. If I copy this and go to Sepolia scan for the base. So this is, again, if you're not familiar, this is a way to see all the transactions, what has happened on Ethereum on the testnet, which is Sepolia. This is not on the Ethereum mainnet. There are different chains, right? This is a base chain. So we are doing transactions on that. As you can see, this is a USDC contract. So the user has to make a transfer using USDC. And there are a bunch of other information like how much amount. This is actually 0.01, which is in the decimals of 6. So it's actually 0.01. And then some timer, what network, and then schema and all those things. But the important thing is to whom to make payment. And then the scheme, that's it. So main important things are to whom to make payment, how much to make payment, what token, and what chain. Because we using this data, the user can actually construct the signature, which we have already done. So if you've seen, this is one more call which we have made to wallet, and it actually generated a signature back, and that signature will be sent to the server, and then all the other things happens, which I showed, right? You send the signature with the header. If you want, I can show that part also. The second data that we are sending, you see this header में you will see this data called X payment. So this, in this X payment, we are actually sending all the encoded data of the signature along with all the data, so that it can do the verification in the backend. In the backend, we have this facilitator running. Server will check that payment payload, and then it will send to a facilitator. It will verify it. After verification is done, it will do the settlement. Everything has happened. If you see, I will show you that particular transaction also. Actually, this is my address, which is a receiver of that particular amount. There should be a transaction which has happened like a couple of minutes ago. So here you see, right? This is a 2 minutes ago. I have received 0.01. This is a transaction which actually went through to pay for that particular call from this address, which is my wallet address. If you cross-check this, here this ends with 295, right? 295, and then this is to the that particular merchant. We sent 0.01 USDC worth of token. So after that, you would get the response back. That's all. Like once that is done, in the payload, you will see the same data back with a password, which is the exact data I wanted. So this is how it works. So instead of having a normal endpoint which would give you the data, you have like to and fro. You throw an error, you sign the signature, you send it to the backend, verifies, and then it's the data. But it's still fast. But yeah, not as fast as the normal calls. And that's exactly why I was telling you need a resource-oriented actual resources, which can actually be very powerful. The agents or the users can consume, and then only you do this micropayment. Otherwise, subscription model also would work great. Right? This is one example. So now I will show this in a how the agent would work, right? So you can also try it out. Everyone can try it out here. You can just go to try agent, and then here you can talk to it. Like, so this is actually configured with the I guess GPT-4 or 4.5 with the AI SDK. So there is a tool backends, we have configured that in just like an HTTP endpoint is there. Okay, by the way, before doing this demo, I want to ask, like, is there any questions so that I can answer before moving on to this time?
If there are no questions, it would mean either of two things.
Yeah.
Either they have understood everything, or it's their first time. They're still trying to make sense of what's being taught.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's go ahead, sir.
Okay. So yeah, that's the HTTP part that I was talking about, like just to get the data back. So now I will show how, again, I'm not going to deep into this agentic part. Again, integration would be a little complex here. But all I will say that this is exactly what we did in the HTTP. Rather than user paying directly from their wallet, here agent is paying for the endpoints. That's the only difference. So here the only other difference is that instead of we designing the endpoints as the HTTP, we have designed that endpoint as an MCP tool, which I showed you earlier, right? So in the ChatGPT or in Perplexity, you can actually configure these endpoints to get the outside resources. So we have the same resources here as well. So if I ask this particular agent client, so it would give me what are the resources it can do, right? So let's say generate secure password, same thing, shortening URL and providing a special code. So same HTTP link that we had, right? So it can do the same thing, but here instead of user doing it, agent is actually doing it through a model and communicating with the external MCP tool that we have configured. So here also we have configured the same way. So if you want to have a quotation, like a normal quote, it will actually, the agent will call the MCP tool and then get the data and then give it to you. So as you can see, this is the data that exact output that we got. And then, yeah, so this is, it did not require any payment. So now let's use one of the other tool just to shorten the URL. I shorten the URL. So this is again one more. Think about it like API endpoint, but here agent is doing. So it is asking for URL. Let me just copy any URL. I'll just copy this. So now it will understand. The agent will understand that's a paid endpoint. It will, because that agent will get the same error message of x402 payment required. And now it is asking just for the confirmation, but actually agent can do transaction on its own because the wallet has been configured for the agent. Now we just confirm this. And it is actually making the payment for that tool. That means services. It is sending to the facilitator. It's confirming and giving you the data back. Now we got the output again as a response similar to the HTTP endpoint. So you can have the shortened URL here. So it's a paid tool that you use and you got that, right? So this is the power of not using HTTP, which is a commonly which we are familiar with. Now it makes more sense because agent actually did the work for you. But imagine this is a very simple task to do. The user intervention is there, but imagine there are like 10 different one after the other step where you do not want user intervention to make the payment, and it's a resourceful server. Actually, the agent would do all this transaction for you and get you the final data, right? So that would be like much more easier for you to like work with. It could do it faster. It could be like always you know exactly. And also again, you can configure your wallet in such a way that it has the spend limits and everything. That's exactly one of the things that at ProveIt we work on, giving the access control for agents to do transactions on your behalf, do investments on your behalf, verification that we do on chain and everything, making the agent wallet layer much more secure. But yeah, so since this is a basic demo, we have given entire wallet access and it can do the transactions for the payment. So I believe this is like much more intuitive to understand where does the payment come in.
Right.
Yeah, so any question I can answer. Otherwise, I will just show some of the resources if you guys are developers who are planning to integrate this solution on how to set up the server end, how to set up the client end. And like it's, as I was telling, it's like pretty easy. So if you're familiar with Node.js, you can set up a server in Express in the backend. Client, you can use Next or any of the React and configure the client and then make this x402 payment.
So Bala Vignesh has asked, would it be possible to do this on Polygon testnet?
Yep, 100%. It's just the network you have to change. So as I was telling at the very beginning, current implementation of x402 has a limitation of one particular token standard. There is again, if you want to go deep into it, there is something called a transfer with authorization method that has to be supported by that particular token. Let me just show you that. So if you see this particular, if anyone, again, if it's beyond you, do not bother about it. Since you asked for Polygon testnet, I'm just going to get this contract. So here you can see this right proxy. So most of these contracts have its own way of having. There are minimal things that is needed for token to become ERC20 compatible. All these tokens are ERC20, but for this x402 current implementation to work, there is a function called as a transfer with authorization, because this is needed because you're signing the transaction in the client end, server is executing it, and people are using this standard right now for the payment. So Polygon already has USDC, USDT, which supports it, so it's good to go. Testnet also, most of the chains are supported. But going forward, if you need more of the tokens, there will be different standards coming in. One of the things that we are working in Prove It, also working with our own standard for the payment, slightly extended version of this, so that any payment tokens can be used, any protocol can be used, and you could make it like much more better to do spend limits and all those sort of things. But yeah, just short answer. Long answer is this. Short answer is yes, Polygon testnet is supported.
Okay. I would like to be respectful of everybody's time. If there are any other questions, please feel free to drop it in the community, either in Hyderabad DAO community or also in OnchAIn Asia community. All right. No.
Okay. Thank you for the lecture, Mr. Raj. Thank you, Frederick.
Thank you. Hope it was good.
So I will share all these resources in the community as well. So you need not worry. I will share this in the community once again.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And if you can quickly show how to set up a server and the client, would be great, sir.
Yeah. So I'll just wrap this up probably. I believe like a lot of people are new and then just wanted to give like certain things for you to understand, go and like look back the resources and understand. Yeah, there are like bunch of different tutorials, videos available already on this to go look into it. Most of these are very early, so probably podcast or early intro is good enough. But yeah, if you are like little advanced, to go and check it out, this particular documentation from the x402, and there are like bunch of other resources, YouTube videos as well. So just to set it up, as I was talking about the server end, so let's imagine like I had an endpoint in the backend, and which most of the time I will either use Python or Node.js. If you are familiar with setting up a middleware server or the server in the backend, you would use Node.js with the Express, or you could use Hono or Next.js to set up a edge server as well. So I would say, like, if you want to start, just start with Express. All you have to do is use any of the node package management tool to install x402-express by Coinbase. You just install it, and then all you got to do is that if you are familiar with writing an app in this Express, you have this app set up right like this: app.get and app.post, and like write all these endpoints. So the only additional things you have to do is this particular part, where you have to do app.use with the payment middleware you imported from the x402 Express, and then you tell where you want to receive the address, the amount for the client made the payment, and then what endpoint you want to, if you already have an endpoint here, what endpoint you want to pay wallet, what price you want to receive. If it's in token, you can specify in decimal. If it's in USDs, you can just write it as a dollar. What network, again, if you're Polygon testnet, you can just say Polygon MOI here, it would work, it's supported. And this is something called as a facilitator, which I was talking about, which does the verification and the settlement. You just have to add this URL. So currently this works. So if you want to look into more of that, you can just go to this x402 scan, and then you will find more facilitator here as well. You can run your own facilitator here as well. So you go to this facilitator section, and you will find all the other links as well. But this one, which is already there, would work fine. Yeah, that's all you need to set up the server. And then once this is done, you can actually make a client call, which would give that x402 HTTP 402 error that I was telling you about. So this is the server part. Coming to the buyer's end, which is the client part, all you need is, again, the client tool, which is when you make an HTTP call, you have either use the native fetch or use that Axios for the Node.js. Same thing with Python, you would use some other packages. Again, I'm not that familiar at this moment with the Python, but it would be the similar thing. So you set up this, install this module, and then if you are familiar, the other thing you would require is the wallet. If you're using external wallet like MetaMask and all, you would use some tools like to RainbowKit, WogMe, or use embedded wallet provider and everything, like Dynamic or Privy. You could use that. Or if you just want to have a agent communication, which is okay with maintaining the private key in the device, you could use this as well. Just for an experiment, you can use this, generate a private key and give it to it. It will become an account. So you can use this tool called a VM to generate this private key to account. And then that's all you require is to set up the wallet. And once that is done, you basically have to import this x402 fetch or Axios. And just like a fetch, you have to wrap it with something called a wrap with fetch, wrap fetch with payment, and pass this fetch and your wallet account. So you'll get one more instance of which is very similar to fetch of client, and then you can make whatever call you want. So fetch URL, you can make get call, pass the URL params, all those things. That's it. This is not required. You just pass that, and if it gets an error, it will automatically make the payment because you have configured this wallet, right? So if the demo you have seen, once I hit the endpoint which is paid, you ought to get automatically pop-up wallet screen or make the payment automatically behind the scenes. So you don't have to configure anything as long as you have configured the account with this particular client, right? So this is all you need to set up in the buyer's end and then seller's end. And you are just, this is good enough for you to start with making a very basic x402 application.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Very happy hosting you again. It was really insightful. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask in the community. Would love to answer. Sir would answer in the community if you have any further questions when you're building it someday.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. Always fun giving insights. If you want to know more about what you're building, follow me or follow us in Prove It Money. And I am Raj Kaushik on Twitter, and yapping me on Telegram as well. Happy to help. Kaushik Raj on Telegram.
Okay. Have a good evening, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for taking the time on a Friday evening. Really appreciate the time you've taken. Looking forward for